Thay Z. And this morning, if we could have a volunteer that would like to do the chant of compassion, that would be greatly appreciated. Anybody willing? Thank you, Sharona.
Okay, excuse me. Chant of compassion. Let us surround all forms of life with infinite love and compassion. Especially may we send out compassionate thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet stand close to the great change called death. We wish them all wisdom, mercy, and love. May the infinite light of wisdom and compassion so shine within us that the errors and vanities of self may be dispelled. So shall we understand the changing nature of existence and awaken into spiritual peace.
Beautifully done. Thank you, Sharona. I've already lit incense today, so I will do the incense chant, and then is somebody willing to do our Don Lay this morning? Thank you, Brother River. Incense chants, precepts incense, liberation of views incense, clouds of lighted incense pouring into the Dharma realms, offering to the highest teachers in the 10 directions. I respectfully bow to the altar of the incense cloud, Bodhisattva.
Don Lay. I bow respectfully to all directions of space, all realms past, present, and future, directions all Buddhas, the honored Dharma, the enlightened Sangha, the permanent three treasures. I bow respectfully to the master of the samsara world, our own teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, to the future coming Maitreya Buddha, to great wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva, to great effort Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, to Dharma protector Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas assembling at the great holy mountain. I respectfully bow to the great love, great compassion Amitabha Buddha of the Western Paradise, to the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, to the great power Maha Samaprapta Bodhisattva, and to the great vow Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, and to the Bodhisattvas in the pure ocean.
Thank you, Thay. Appreciate that so much. So, Sangha, I'm going to speak to you a little bit this morning before meditation. And first of all, I'd like to wish everybody a most peaceful holiday. No matter what is occurring on the outside, I'm hoping that the peace of our hearts and our ability to understand our own nature will give us this experience of a holiday that maybe includes friends or relatives or celebrations of whatever initiates that peace for you. So that is my wish for all of you in this holiday weekend. If you're bored or have nothing else to do, I could also remind you that Wimbledon is on television, and tennis is just a simply beautiful activity to partake of while you're just sitting there enjoying the back and forth of one ball to the next. That's wonderful. So this morning, I thought I would talk about three words that play in my mind quite frequently. And those words are the concepts of choice, the concept of control, and the concept of equanimity. But before I get into those three words, I would really like to talk to you or share a story with you. And most of you have probably already heard this story. I don't think we've shared it in this Sangha in a while, and I know I haven't said it in my Sangha in a while. So hopefully this story will just be a resurrection of good thoughts. It comes from the Tao, or the Taoist stories. And if you're aware of the Tao in India at the time, it was probably very interchanged with what we now know today as Hinduism, and Buddhism claims some connection to the Tao as well. And this story involves a farmer. And this farmer had a young son and a meager farm, not overly wealthy or anything like that, just kind of a working man's place. And in this time, he also had some neighbors. And the neighbors, as all neighbors will do from time to time, will interact when things occur among themselves. And so one night, his son forgot to put up the barrier out of the corral. And the one horse that he owned escaped from the corral and ran away. And in the morning, the farmer discovered that his workhorse, this horse that he depended upon for his livelihood, was now missing. And of course, the neighbors, all being what many neighbors are, which is, I always call neighbors sometimes the Kravitzes of the neighborhood, they came over and saw that the horse was missing. And they said to the farmer, "Oh, that is so terrible that you've lost your horse, and now who will plow your fields, and who will haul your produce?" And the farmer just looked at them all and he said, "Could be, don't know." And the next day when the farmer woke up, the horse, knowing where his home was, came back, and lo and behold, what he brought back to the corral was a whole bunch of other horses that he had met out in the wild, and became the leader of this pack of horses. And he brought them back, and they were all munching hay in the corral. And all of a sudden, the man who had one horse and then no horses, and now had many horses, was again set upon by his neighbors, who said to him, "Oh, you lucky, lucky man. Look at now your wealth is increasing. You've got many horses. You can do much more work. How happy is this for you?" And the farmer said, "Could be. I don't know." And so the next day, when the farmer was out working in the fields, his young son decided that maybe one of these horses would be a good riding horse. And so he went out and he decided to break the horse to be able to be ridden by a human. And in the process of breaking the horse, he got thrown, and instead of breaking the horse, he broke his leg. And so the neighbors again gathered around this farmer and said, "Oh goodness, what woes you have in your life. Now your son has a broken leg, and he won't be able to help you in the fields and to tend the horses and everything else that needs to be done on a farm. Poor, poor you." And the farmer said, "Could be. I don't know." The next day, the ruler of the territory was out going to all the different farms, looking for young men to conscript into the army, so that he was going to fight a war, and he was going to take all the young men with him. But when he got to this farmer's place, he saw that the young man had a broken leg and would be of no use in war. And so he bypassed this farmer and his young son, and so his young son got to stay home. And again, all of his neighbors came around and said, "Oh, you fortunate, fortunate man. All of our children are now in danger, but your son is safe, and safe from the causality of war." And again, the farmer said, "I don't know. Could be." So what's the moral of this story, my friends? The moral of the story is that this farmer didn't spend a lot of time worrying about outside things that were happening under which he had no control. So there's the very first word that we want to talk about, which is the word control. How many of you might have a little control in your life? You know, you like your coffee a certain way, you like your toilet paper so it goes this way rather than that way. You know, all of these controlling issues in your life. How many have these controls in your life? I think I could safely assume that most of us do. You know, prior to my retirement at American Airlines, I worked in a couple of departments and led a couple of them that were very controlling. They required us to put together procedures for airports and how they operate and how the security works. And I had to be very controlling in those situations. And I was very practiced at being a controlling person. I don't know why I developed it earlier in life. I've been thinking more and more about that, but I felt I had to have control over most things, my relationships, my job, my career, my life in general. If I was the least bit out of control, I was out of sorts. And now I'd like to go to our next C word, which is choice. In all those things and all the issues that occurred with the farmer and with all of the issues we have with our own control, we all have choices. Those choices allow us to take these challenges of our lives and to look at them with different eyes and different heart. In our meditation, we often say body, breath, and mind held together in perfect oneness. That's what our choices allow us to be. Rather than being off center because of something that we may have some control over or that we may have no control over, we have a choice on how we're going to react to it. And that choice will allow us to approach, much like the farmer, with an attitude of, I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm going to accept at this particular moment that which is and live my life with less stress. And so the third word is our equanimity. This is one of the viharas that the Buddha left with us. The four viharas are obviously compassion and loving kindness and empathetic joy and this equanimity. What is equanimity? Well, equanimity is not an absence of control, not an absence of choice, but just a simple way of dealing with what's happening in our life. It's kind of that middle way that the Buddha taught us and he learned in his awakenings, that too much of anything, either good or bad, can affect us in ways that are not necessarily our best choice of how to do our lives. And so we are encouraged to not ignore our choices, to not say that choices are bad or good, but that choice just is something that we have. And if we apply the spirit and the understanding of equanimity, our choices will not be as earth-shattering or as overwhelming as they sometimes may have been in the past. We can look at things even things that we don't think we could deal with, and see them in a different way and find ways of being loving and kind and accepting. And for me, this gradual release of my own controlling nature has been about acceptance, just simply being with it. And not with it is not the term I would normally use, because sometimes people think with it means you've got it all down. I don't. But just being with whatever is occurring and not allowing my own mind to play games with my concept of choice. And once I do that, the concept of control lessens a whole lot. And when I'm no longer feeling like I must control something or that I want to control something, I can move outside of myself and find ways of dealing with these issues in our lives in very different ways. You know, when I want to control things, sometimes it wasn't useful to be kind. If I felt I had to fire somebody, kindness was way down the line in what I was considering I had to control, because it was important and I could lose my job if I don't control this. Rather than understanding that everybody makes mistakes, we're all subject to making error, and blaming somebody else or taking it out on something else just serves very little purpose at all. In fact, it probably brings us more sadness and more unhappiness than we could even possibly imagine as we deliver this type of feelings or actions to ourselves or to others. And so I encourage all of us to take the opportunity to use this practice to understand better our own issues when it comes to control, when it comes to choice, and when it comes to equanimity. That equanimity is like a balancing board, and it just gives us, it's a safety place where we don't have to go too far in any one direction, and that we can just accept what is, especially when we have no control over what is occurring. Those are my words for today, dear, dear Sangha.